Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Lyfe Choyces Podcast.
Yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Lyfe Choyces Podcast, here where we discuss mindset, success, the good and the tough aspects of going after your passions. On today's episode, we are welcoming Franny.
Yes, hi.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
We have known the same people in the area of West Palm for probably, well, as long as I've been here, I've known the people that you've known, because I feel like you've probably been here longer than me.
Kind of running the same circles.
Yes. I've been here for I've been in and out of the port for 15 years, as long as I've been doing the private yacht chef
Okay.
gig. So can you let our guests know a little bit about yourself, a little background, and what it is that you do nowadays?
Absolutely. Well, first, I would love to say when I got here, you're like, we met in an elevator.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's pretty random, but I absolutely understood what you were talking about. But I have been here maybe just a little bit longer than you, 20-something years, 21, 22 years. And when I first came here, I was done with high school, decided to leave Georgia, come down here. I wanted to pursue some kind of something in entertainment. So I did the cheapest way around it, and I went to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Okay.
So I did that, hoping to be, at the time, this is how I'm aging myself, I wanted to be an MTV VJ. I wanted to be on television.
I can see that, actually. You
Right?
actually have the right image for that job, for sure.
So that's totally what I wanted to do. I wanted to be on TRL. I wanted to do the spring breaks. I wanted to do all that stuff. And then I ended up on local radio. So that's what I do. At the time, it was Clear Channel when I started. But now I'm with iHeart Radio. I'm on Real Radio. Been on that radio station. That's 92.1 on the FM dial for about 13 years. And and then just recently I started doing the morning show on the Gator, which is our classic rock station.
Okay, awesome. And you did mention that you also have a podcast.
I do, yeah.
And that's called?
That is called Pillow Talk with Franny and Megan. I do it with a smoke show. Her name is Megan, a very beautiful girl. She was in a couple movies, and she is an Instagram influencer, and now she does mornings on Wild 95.5.
Okay.
We do it together, and we kind of, the basis around it is we talk about like what girls talk about when the guys aren't around. So things that you want to kind of eavesdrop on.
I mean, that's an excellent show, not just for the ladies, but I feel like the men should listen as well,
That's
because they're going to
absolutely.
get good info.
Yeah, that's who we're gearing it towards. We're gearing it towards dudes. Like, listen up. You're going to want to listen to what we have to talk about and take this information and use it in your life.
Become better at a relationship, basically.
I think we should all become better at everything, right?
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah?
That's literally one of the pillars as to why I started doing this, is because I've been practicing in my own life to become a better human being, just to become better and help others.
Yeah.
And it's a message I try to give everybody, is just do a little bit more for someone else, and you'll feel better about yourself.
Absolutely.
After the fact. So,
Life choices, right?
100%.
Make the right life choices.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you actually came down to South Florida in pursuit of being in the entertainment industry. So did you already know at a younger age then, like what your passion was, like what you wanted to do?
I was a ham growing up. I am the youngest of 3 girls, and from the age of watching Star Search and just making up little dances in my living room, and I wanted to do stuff like that, and just watching movies and memorizing all the lines, I knew I wanted to do something.
Okay.
But I definitely cannot sing. I mean, it is bad.
Right. Yes. Okay.
I picked up a couple instruments, did not work out very well. Piano, a little bit. I played the clarinet, tambourine. I would crush. I'm great at the tambourine, but I don't know if that's going to get me very far in life. And and then I was like, you know what? This whole like aspect of being I love music, and I knew, as I mentioned, I really have zero musical skill, but I could do something like that, like the VJ thing, like a radio DJ, where I would still be around that kind of atmosphere, but I didn't need the chops in order to make it to be like rock star status, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that, and I got my quick 6-month certificate at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Okay.
And I joke about it because some people are like, God, what a waste of money. I know a lot of people who went through the program. And I got very fortunate because at the time they didn't have, because they put you in after you're done with that, they put you into an internship.
Right.
And I wanted to do something obviously in television. And locally, they were full. They didn't have any room for interns. So they were like, well, do you want to be on like this top 40 really popular radio station, Wild 95.5? I was like, sure, why not?
Give it a try.
Yeah, give it a try. The only thing that sucked, right? I'm 18 years old at the time. 6 a.m. is what time the show starts, right? When you're 18, what time are you getting up?
Noon.
Exactly. Maybe.
And that's if your dad's not, my dad knocking on my door telling me to get up.
Right? It's like if that. So I was like, oh my God, there goes my teen years, my 18. But I ended up doing it and I gained really great relationships throughout it. One of my great girlfriends, Virginia, she's been in the area for 25, 26 years, killing it in radio, like always #1. So she kind of helped me throughout the way. I did that. I ended up working my way up throughout the Clear Channel iHeart world. I did sales for a little bit just to get a little bit more money because obviously internships free, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, when I was doing sales, I met my co-host. We call him Greek, is what we call him. Nobody knows his real name.
Okay, fair enough.
I do.
Fair enough. We're not gonna put it out there.
Nope, it's a secret. I won't tell anybody. I don't even know how old this guy is, to be honest with you. I mean, I can guess. I'm not gonna put it out there. People listening, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard of the Greek." I can kind of guess because I've known him now maybe 17 years. You just do the math.
Do people know what he looks like?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's on like billboards and posters.
He
and
has.
stuff like
He
that.
has been.
Okay.
He's out and about a lot.
So it's like anonymity at its best, man.
Yes. So I met him, and then he was like, "Do you want to jump on with me on Real Radio?" He was like, kind of like a tryout because we're going to create this new show. We have a new time slot in the afternoons, and so I sat with him and another guy, Johnny C, during a sports show. So I don't know much about sports. And I will be honest with you, I really think the only reason, and I'm totally going to call him out right now, I really think the only reason why he asked me to, and I'm 27, 28,
Right.
I'm 41 right now.
41.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I think he wanted to have sex with me.
I mean, hey, man, woman, cute girl.
I do.
You know, it's not unheard of.
And I joke around with him about this all the time. I do. I think that's the only reason why I initially got what you would call my first break in radio.
Right, yeah.
But I did it for free for almost a year, only on Saturdays, a sports show. And I kind of got settled into it, and management was listening, and they really liked the way that the three of us sounded. So from there, from a Saturday show, they gave us a 2-hour show Monday through Friday during like middays. And then a year later, it grew into a 4-hour show Monday through Friday. And now here we are doing the Penthouse 13 years later.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've been hustling like since you were 18 or maybe even younger than that.
Way younger. I mean, I've been working since I was like 13, 14. The people we know, I've been in the restaurant industry for years.
Right.
I think I had my first job in the restaurant industry, 15 years old. Hostess.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Hostess. Worked up my way up to server status. Been bartending for God knows how long. 25. How old am I? Well, I'm trying to do the math. 22, 22
Minus
years.
7, add 4.
Yeah, something like that. So, I mean, just working around this area, working at Kapow, Cabo Flats, Dirty Martini. I still even do like events on the side. I'm still bartending, big
still
festivals.
having fun.
Yeah, it's a fun industry to be in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You meet loads of people and you make a
do.
lot of networking is like at its best when you're in the hospitality industry. Doesn't surprise me that you've been working that long. My dad in Canada, it's where I'm from. I'm actually born in Toronto.
I heard a little
out
bit.
and about and around the house.
Out and about. I heard that coming out.
So my dad, I've said this before on the show, my dad, the legal age to work in the hospitality industry is 14 in Canada. So my dad, I have 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 3 as well. On our 14th birthday or just before it, my dad would bring home the social insurance application, similar to your social security.
Yeah,
your number
you're
that
getting
you
a
get to
job.
work. Yeah,
Yes.
And it wasn't, it was like, here, fill this out. It's time to work. The money you see is not yours. It's, I work for that. If you want things in life, you need to work for it, which I love that he did that for me. That's why I've been always responsible, with my monies. But once you start working at that point and getting your own money, you kind of want more and you kind of want to go after it.
Absolutely.
Back then, the very first job I had was I was cleaning the dining room of like a fast food joint, so nothing spectacular. But I fell in love with hospitality, and I've been doing that since I was 14, and I'm 45 years young. So it's been a minute. I'm not going to do the math. It's been a minute.
I get it. And I'm kind of somewhat in the same boat. So on my own but with living in Georgia, my father passed away at a very young age. So he was 39. I was 13 years old when it happened. And so my mom went from, kind of being taken care of to having to do stuff on her own. So one of the things that she did was she followed her dreams and she opened up a Puerto Rican restaurant. My family's from Puerto Rico. So she opened up a Puerto Rican restaurant in the back of a Puerto Rican market. Like, it was nothing big. You would have no idea it was there unless you knew the market, right?
Right.
And you would walk in and you're like, oh, there's a cute little diner in the back. So she did that, and we were there working, 13, 14 years old. And by working, I mean, like, we would have to go through like the bags of white rice and pick out like the brown, like the brown pieces. We would have to peel her garlic. Like, she gave us all the crap jobs,
of course,
that no adult wants to do. But like, I was like, is there any child labor laws around here? Like, I
mean, you were getting paid, but you weren't getting paid.
No,
so like,
I mean, like a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But I did, from even having silly jobs like that, and like sometimes being like, can I just go home? But I did. I fell in love with it. I did. I fell in love with her passion behind it. Watching how happy the customers were there when they were having a good drink, when they had a fantastic meal. And so from there, I think that's kind of where I was like, yeah, this is at least what I want to do in the beginning. I mean, I still have visions of opening up like a really cute kind of boutique-y style bar, tapas kind of place. I've talked about opening up food trucks and stuff. Like, that passion will always be there. I mean,
you should talk to our boy Brian. Shout out to Brian Hernandez, their owner of Frio Cryotherapy. He's so wanting to do the food truck.
Oh, I'm sure he is. Yeah. I have a couple ideas. I do. But yeah, I've known Brian for a long time. We actually met bartending at the original Cabo Flats. Yeah.
I only ever went there like 1 or 2 times. I think it was possibly still open the first few years I was coming in and out of West Palm.
Okay.
And then it got shut down. So you've had this passion for entertainment, which led you into broadcasting, and you've had this love for hospitality, which
I think they intertwine. Like, I do, because you're entertaining when you're bartending. You're entertaining your customers.
Yeah, you're talking to them.
Yeah, they're not going to come back unless they like you, and a lot of it is from that conversation.
99% of the reason why I would come back to a bar is because of the person serving me my drinks.
Yep.
The biggest reason why I started going to Roxy's Pub downtown West Palm Beach, I mean, I first got here in 2008 or 10.
Okay.
And I have many options. There's plenty of places to go.
Yeah.
But the people that were working there at the time drew me in and were so nice to me and remembered me after like the second time coming in, and then just brought me into their family, which is how I met Brian. He was working there at the time, and everyone else that I now associate with, whether it's within my inner circle or my extended, acquaintances and whatnot, they're more or less from that bar.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good crew. I think that they definitely go hand in hand. Not only obviously the aspect that you have to be charismatic if you want people to like you and bring you in. Believe me, I know girls who are terrible to their bar customers.
Yes.
And they still come in because there's some people who like that.
I've dated a couple of them. I'm not going to lie.
No, but it's true. Like, there's some people who want to like go into somewhere and be kind of treated like crap. Yeah. To them, it's kind of like a game. It's like this tease, this flirt thing, and it works for them. But that's never been me. I've always been, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be like I'm the nicest person in the world, but that's just always been my personality.
Well, I feel like, I mean, I've known of you for many years, and meeting you just now over a little bit of a conversation. You're high energy. You're very, very happy.
I am.
So having that as the individual behind the bar is going to just, you're just going to want to come back. You want to see that face. You want to come in, and sometimes people come into a bar because they're dealing with stuff inside.
Of course. And
they're not happy. And then they come in and they see their regular bartender, and then boom, their whole mood changes. They have a good time. Hopefully they get out of their own head for a little bit, and the day's easier for them.
And whether it's behind the bar or behind the mic, listen, we all have bad days. We all do. If I told you I did not struggle through some days, I would be totally BSing you. But absolutely. But once the mics are cracked, or once you're behind that bar, you just have to let it go. You have to, at least for those moments that you're there during commercial breaks, when I go to the bathroom, if I want to cry or yell at somebody, I absolutely will. But when I'm behind there, I'm business. I'm there for the people I'm with. I'm there for my audience. I don't take baggage with me. And there's so many people who do that, and it just doesn't work out. I've worked with people like that, whether it was on the radio or behind a bar, and it's draining. We're like, we're here to be that person. Whether you're driving in your car listening to us, or whether you came from working 9-10 hours and your boss was yelling at you and you came to the bar to have a drink, like, we're supposed to be your relief.
Right.
Yeah. Like, we're not there to put our crap on you.
Hopefully not.
No. But it happens.
Well, see, we talk about this quite often on the Lyfe Choyces podcast, which is adversity and or depression. And it's topics that I think is very important for many people.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, too.
Is it really?
Yes, it is.
I should know that.
It's also Masturbation May, too.
Is it really?
Yes, they both go hand in hand.
hand.
No pun intended. It is. I'll drop some stupid facts on you.
Which is so weird, because I literally just took 90 days away from everything.
Wow, yeah.
So worst month for me to do that.
Yeah.
The aspect of mental health is very important to me because I've shared with the audience very openly about how I've gone through depression before. And I don't say that I've gone through it more than others or less than others. I've just gone through it myself.
Yeah, you all have your different journeys. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't try to tell anyone out there what they should do to get out of that depression, but I share what I do to get out of it. And I expressed the other day on another podcast that the night before recording, I was in a mood. I was in a dark cloud, basically, for no real reason. There wasn't anything specific that happened. I just had this overwhelming, crushing feeling of scared, depression, crying all at once.
It can be debilitating. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I had a movie on, and it allowed me to cry, which is very therapeutic for me, at least. I'm fine with doing it. I'm fine with sharing that with everyone out there. When these things that you've mentioned have happened, it's true that you have to still go to work. You still got to man up, woman up. You got to show up. You got to do the job. What is there any certain techniques that you do for yourself to get through the low points?
So while I'm at work, or just in general when at home?
In general, for you as an individual.
I do it. So if I have those moments in my time, I do breathing exercises. I do meditate. To me, what's very therapeutic is going to the gym too, just like hitting it. And I mean like hitting it hard at the gym, working out, lifting weights, stuff like that. I rather do stuff like that, being in the kitchen. I'm not a chef like you, but I consider myself a pretty damn good home cook. That to me is my zen. I have to put myself in a place doing things that makes me happy, so I'm not thinking about all the negative things. And yeah, of course, it absolutely will still be in the back of your mind. And then there's, I even like have like these little talks in my head too. Like it could be worse.
Right.
Life could be way worse. I'm so fortunate. You got to be thinking about the things in your life that you have that are so great that some people may not have.
There's usually always someone out there that has it worse than you.
Absolutely. And I know that. And I mean, even today on the show, I got some pretty bad news before the show, and I'm outside about to walk in, and my co-host sees me, and I'm on the phone, and I'm just like yelling at somebody, and I was crying, and he kind of looked at me and he's like, "Are you okay? Can you do the show?" And I was like, "Yeah." I had 30 minutes before we were on air. I had 30 minutes, and I was just like, "I'll be fine." Did I feel okay? No, absolutely not. But I knew like I could just sit there and just breathe a little bit and manage to get myself through the show. And then finally with that, I had a couple smiles. We cracked some jokes. I laughed and I was doing this and that. And then I kind of forgot what was going on until after the fact. And then I dealt with my problem then.
Right.
Yeah. So
I love that. Breathing techniques.
Yeah.
I do yoga.
Yes. Yoga's great.
Somewhat regularly.
Have you been to the hot yoga over there by the rec center? It's kind of like where all the is it Civil Society? There's a breweries down there, West Palm Beach.
Oh, I know
it's been there for a long time.
But
yes.
No, I've not heard of this.
Try it out. It's a good place.
Yeah. I actually go. I used to go and get private lessons from the owner of Yoga Path.
Okay.
Her name's Chelsea, and hopefully, fingers crossed, she'll be on the podcast eventually. But I've never thought about doing breathing exercises. I've never implemented that practice into the getting through my adversities or my depression times.
Yeah.
So I like that. When Daryl Moyles was on the show.
I love him. He's one of my good buddies.
And that's how this is happening right now.
Yes, it is.
He had talked to you about the show, and then we kind of got this going. And it's not surprising, since you're a good friend of his, that you're aligning with everything that the Lyfe Choyces podcast is about.
Yeah.
So bringing up the topics that you have right now is very similar to what other guests in the past have said, individually or all collectively have said the same thing, like working out, doing things that basically will occupy the mind or push aside the negativity for the moment. Think of something positive that allows you to be happy. And then as a person is you need to go after it and find out why. Why do you feel like this? Accomplish getting over it. I try to say that what I do is I try to not relish in the down, but appreciate the down. Because we know life goes up and life goes down.
Sure does.
And you need to know what the down is so that...
When you're down, the only way is up, right?
100%, right?
Yeah.
And the ups are amazing, but we all know it's going to go down again.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like somebody like you or somebody like me, I have so many people in my life that you kind of look at and you're like, you know what? I'm like, why would they ever be sad? Or why would they ever go through anything? Or you can't ever tell. She always has a smile on her face. And that's one of those things. Like never assume you know what's going on in people's life because you have
100%.
absolutely no idea. You don't. I mean, you see these things. So, I mean, every morning and every night, my job consists of not only being on the radio for 2 shows for 8 hours a day, but I have to do a lot of show prep. So I am constantly like digging through every website from, from our local news sites, so like USA Today to the New York Post to Daily Mail to stuff like Bro Bible, Lad Bible, because our audience is a very male-dominated audience. So a lot of the stuff that I gear towards is things that guys care about. And of course, I want women to care too. But overall, that's our demographic. But I mean, you read so many things like, so-and-so influencer, 25 years old, beauty model, blah, 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 dealing with depression, commit suicide. And then everybody was surprised. And it was surprised because of what they saw from the outside. If you probably knew what was going on internally, or you cared, or you asked, or you were, is everything okay? Which a lot of people don't ask very often. Right. Then it may not have been that much of a shock to people. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't remember which comedian said it, and I could be completely wrong. It might not even be a comedian, with Jim Carrey or Robin Williams or whatever. There's a quote out there that says, people don't fake depression, they fake being happy. Yeah. And those who try to make other people happy all the time are usually the ones that are dealing with it the most. Yeah. Which I find so interesting. So true. So someone like, I looked up to Robin Williams my whole life because he was doing it while I was a kid. So that was one of the people I saw all the time. Mork and Mindy show was amazing. And then to find out what he was dealing with in life regularly, you don't stop and think that something like that's happening. So it's a valid point.
Because they make us so happy.
100%.
Right? Like they're the ones telling us jokes, and then when it happens, you're just, same thing. He wasn't much of a jokester, great personality, but Anthony Bourdain, like I was devastated when that happened, right? And I'm sure you were too. And so just stuff like that. And it's one of those things that, and I'm glad you bring this up. I'm glad that we're talking, because it is Mental Health Awareness Month and stuff. And what I'm really starting to see too is that men are a little bit more open to talk about it, more so than they were before. Because back in the day, your dad told you to toughen up, don't cry. Be a man.
Drink a cup of cement and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, basically is what they said. Yeah. And it's a different time. Yeah. It's a different time, which is a good thing and stuff like this. But then going back to, we're going to go full circle. Us talking about how young we were working. It's a different time that nobody wants to do shit anymore. All these kids are so lazy.
100%. I
right?
agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
I have so many friends in the industry, have restaurants or whatever it is. And they're just like, we just can't keep anybody here. We can't keep them staffed. Yeah. Nobody wants to work. It's just insane to me.
It's a topic we talk about all the time. Yeah. We'll get into in a little bit, which is the instant gratification. Yeah. But getting back to Anthony Bourdain, I've talked about him a couple times on the show. Obviously, I've had a few chefs on here. He wrote the book Kitchen Confidential, and I was in my early 20s when it came out. And I shared this before with the guests. I was in a kitchen, sitting on the milk cart upside down and reading it like on a break. And I was literally reading my life as I was going through it. He had already done it. So someone like that, he changed my life at a young age, and I've never shied away from sharing how I feel, almost to the point, which is I'm interested to listen to your podcast, Pillow Talk, because I might get some answers as to why I've not been successful in relationships, which might be maybe I was too much sharing of what I'm thinking or feeling. And I do it on this show regularly because I want men to know that it's okay. And I couldn't give a fuck.
Good. You shouldn't.
If someone says something behind my back about the way I express, about me being vulnerable, about me crying.
If you cared, you wouldn't be doing it.
100%. Yeah. And that's why I'm doing this, is I want to help. That's all it is. And I'm fortunate enough that like within my circle of friends, we can lean on each other as men, and we can share, which is absolutely wonderful. There is nothing wrong with it, and more people should open up about it. If you don't like it, you don't have to. I'm just saying, for me, it's done wonders. When I was younger, I didn't. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was an asshole. I didn't treat people the best, and I kept everything inside.
All right. Can I ask you, did you have a lot more girls then? Because remember, when you're younger, girls love assholes.
Well, I look back now and realize, yes, I was around a lot more women back then. I didn't have a lot of relationships because it didn't follow it just didn't follow me, I guess. I had my fun, and it was, I want to say, not easier, but there was more
opportunity.
Yeah, I want to say that. Okay. And maybe it was because I was being such an asshole.
Yeah, and back then girls were silly. I was one of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is so weird.
It is, because now, I mean, the older you get, you realize that that's just for fun. You don't want that in real life. You do want somebody who's able to communicate with you. But there are some women out there who think that some guys, like you said, just over communicate their feelings. And that's just not the right person then.
Yeah, I mean, that's true facts. It comes down to, I think we talked about this the other day. You got to stop looking or trying to find your partner, because you're going to go after the wrong person. Mm-hmm. You should literally worry about yourself, create good here, make your temple happy, and that will eventually attract your partner. Yeah. The right one.
And that's it. You have to be 100% content with yourself before you can give yourself to somebody else. Mm-hmm. I have my oldest sister. She celebrated 5 years sobriety recently. And, you know, in the first few years, it was really, really tough for her. And it was more tough for her because she wanted to be in a relationship, because she was so used to always being one, and she was partying and she was going out. Either that, she was having random hookups or whatever it was. But she, you know, we would have to be like, and even her, you know, she would go to therapy or a counselor, and they would just be like, no, you're not ready, because what you want to do is you just want to put all your efforts into somebody and not take care of yourself. And it was a lot of work mentally for her to get to that point, but she finally did, and she listened, and she put everything off relationship-wise to the side, and now she is wholly content with herself. And it's almost, she's so happy with herself that she's like, I don't need anybody. I mean, she's totally perfect. She's totally changed her mentality, that she's like, you know, she's got I have a niece now. She's 6 years old. She's like, I have her, I have me. She was just like, you know, I don't know why I was ever like that. And I was like, because you weren't happy. I was like, and now you are. So you realize that you don't need somebody else to make you happy, because you've done it on your own. She
started doing self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which is so important.
It's massively important. Yeah. We talk about that all the time on here. So for yourself then, did you ever have to work on that?
I have been fortunate. Like, have I had my ups and downs? Yes. I mean, as I mentioned, I lost my dad at a very young age. I had issues with that. I did have to go to therapy for that. I've had, you know, a couple pretty bad relationships. I'm in my second marriage, and this is going to be it. I'm done after this. Knock on wood. Thank you.
I always do
knock on wood. Knock on wood. Yeah. So I've had my bouts, but I typically try, like I mentioned in the beginning, I try to focus on the positive. Like, I've been so fortunate in my life, and nothing has fallen on my lap, but I've worked really hard. I've worked really hard for what I've gotten. And anytime I see myself kind of get in a funk, I deal with it. But I'm also like, you know, if I've worked from the bottom up like that, like even internally when I get upset at myself, I do that. Like, I just have to work for it. I have to work at making myself back to being positive and back to being happy. And so overall, I think I tend to do it pretty well. I mean, yeah. I mean, we, you know, like I said, we all have our problems. And yes, some people are a little bit, you know, bigger than others, but I choose happy. That's what I choose.
And that's wonderful, because it's very easy. It's easier to fall down the unhappy.
Yes.
It's very easy to focus on everything that's not working out in your life and forget about how blessed you are. You know, we talk about this a little bit on the show as well. It's like, gratitude is a very important thing.
Yeah.
And if you realize that you woke up today as a blessing, like you got a chance to do it again.
I'm sure you've talked about it. Yeah. I mean, and you probably have had somebody who do this. Have a journal next to your bed. Yeah. This is a practice I was in for a long time. I've fallen off of it, and I should get back in it. But you write in the morning 3 things that you're grateful for. That's what you do. And then you look at it and you write those 3 things that you're grateful for, and then you start with your day. Yeah.
Steve Harvey says it on something I came across, and he said, before you leave your house, you should do exactly that. Whether it's a journal or just say it to yourself, say things that you are grateful for. And he goes off on a list of like 50 different things that you could be grateful for, and then go out into the world. And one of the practices that I share on here is that before I go to bed at the end of the day, and before I get out of bed in the morning, that's one of the things I do. I just think it, or I say it out loud, what I'm grateful for. And it can be as simple as, I'm grateful for my puppy being beside me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful that I'm being given a chance to do it again today. Because we go to sleep with undoubtable faith that we're waking up the next day. 90%, 99% of people do. But it's not guaranteed to you.
No, there is that very, very small percentage, but it's still out there.
There are some people that won't make it home today, won't wake up tomorrow. And just that alone, like, getting home to your family or your friends or whoever it is that you get home to, that's another thing to be grateful for. So why start your day on the other side?
Yep, I am with you. And I know this is crazy and like even getting on like a personal level, but I think it's a lot of way that people feel. So at my age, I've chosen not to have kids, my husband and I, and it's his second marriage too, but we've kind of decided like we want to travel. We want to be a little selfish. We can't do that. We have 2 dogs already. We feel bad if we leave them, right? So I was like, I can't imagine. But another thing, like you mentioned, when you leave, you don't know if you're going to come back. When you do, it is so crazy out there that I'm like, I'm concerned about myself. I can't imagine how neurotic I would be if I had a little one I had to take care of. I would be a insane mom. And so like I'm already, and that's the thing, like I'm constantly in the news, and I mean in it by reading it, and I'm whether I'm watching it or I have a publication, and yes, I still read print, or I'm on my computer. I know those are weird, right? You have to show a kid these days, they're like, what's that? But yeah, I'm constantly doing something that I see these things, even though I steer away from them because I'm trying to. What we do on our radio station, especially Real Radio, because that's a talk format. We're like one of the only FM hot talk radios. Everybody else plays music. Only time you hear talk is like a morning show, but then they sprinkle in music here and there. Or you're on, NPR in an AM station. So every time I tell people I do talk radio, because they're like, oh, what music you play? I'm like, oh, we're just all talk. They automatically think politics, just serious stuff. And we're like, we steer far away from that because you know what you're going to get into if you start talking politics.
Politics and religion.
Yes, and religion, 100%. So we steer far away from that. And even though I see it, because I have to dig through all of that crap to get to the stuff I want to talk about in order to entertain and make people happy, it's in my face every single day. And when I see that, I mean, I don't want to be scared of the world. I mean, that's far from it.
Not a great way to
live.
But
it's not. But obviously, a little bit still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is an interesting point because we've had many guests on the show that have kids. Most of them so far have been men that have kids, and we touch on the topic 100%. And I can only understand the theory behind it because I don't have any that I know about. But
somebody's watching right now and like, you kind of look like my kid. You remember that summer back in 2011?
Oh, I figure since they all know what I do for a living, if they needed help, they would have figured it out.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyhow, I have many friends that have kids, and the topic comes up often on the show. And I agree with you. I thought my father, we didn't get along when I was a child. We are the same person, and we fought quite a lot. And as a child, you don't understand what a parent's doing. And until I got older, I didn't know that my dad was just being an overprotective father. He cared that much. He cared that much that he was literally probably worried to fucking hell when I was doing the shit I was doing. There were cops sometimes, and rightfully so.
I was no saint. I get it. Yeah.
So the thought of like, I'm responsible for this person's life forever.
It's huge
in this world, on this rock.
Yes. I can't even keep a plant alive. How am I supposed to?
Dude, I bought 12 of them. I got 3 left in my room.
I'm good at keeping dogs alive, though. I will tell you that.
Good.
My dogs are thriving.
It's a scary thought, though, to be responsible for someone else's life, and especially for you, then, because you do have to kind of dive into all of the news all the time to find.
And it's scary. Yeah. It is. I won't put her name out there, but she locally did the news in our area for a very, very long time. And she would come into our show every now and then and do like these little special news bits live on air with us. And when she had decided to retire, they made a big deal about it on our local news station. We had her on to talk about it. And after the fact, we chatted, and she said that's why. She's got little kids. And first of all, she's not around long enough because when you're a news anchor, anything happens, right? Hurricane, any big, I mean, they can call you out of bed and you're out and you're covering it. And so you're working all these crazy hours. But, which is now makes me go, oh, I'm glad I didn't go that route. But she said, she was like, I report on these things all the time. And she's like, and they are absolutely devastating. And a lot of them can be something to do with school shootings or this and that. And she was just like, she was like, it was just killing me. She was like, as a person, she was like, it was breaking me down. And she's like, so I had to get out of it just because it was just such a negative impact in her life. It wasn't her job. It's what the job entailed, the stories she had to cover. So.
Which must be hard because if you're doing what your passion is, most of your life, I would assume, but the overwhelmingness of everything that you're dealing with, and it takes away from the love you have for doing what you're doing.
Hence why I wanted to be an MTV VJ. You don't have to deal with any of that bullshit.
Right. Well, as far as you know, right?
That's true. I don't even know if they have MTV VJs anymore. Like I can't even tell you the last time.
I don't remember the last time I watched a regular TV, like a regular TV show.
No, everything I'm streaming and Netflix and Hulu and Peacock, but not just that. I mean, I think I steered away from MTV when they stopped playing music videos, which was forever ago.
See, in Canada, we had much music.
Okay.
Same idea, VJs and everything.
Right.
And that's all I did. I just watched music videos all the time. I knew what was happening in music.
Yep.
Now I don't know shit.
I don't either. I don't even know half the stuff these people are listening to. Like I am so stuck in my own world of music, and that's the world from the early 2000s and 90s. Yes, I like listen to some new things come up. We just had Sunfest, right?
Right.
So iHeart was one of the major sponsors. It was pretty cool. I got to go and enjoy myself on Saturday, and I love Dropkick Murphys, so we were there watching them. But on Sunday, I had to work. I had to work at the Gator Tent, and then for Real Radio, my co-host Jimmy and I, we got to go and do the introduction for 311 on stage, which was really cool, and meet them backstage because I've been a fan since I was like 13 years old.
I was going to say, I saw them once when I was like early 20s probably, or 17 or something.
Yeah, just always been a fan of theirs. And then I got to introduce the Killers with the Gator later on at night. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it was really, really cool. And so those were one of those things that you're like, when you talk about your job, you're like, yeah, it's pretty damn cool. We got these amazing perks that you get with a job. And so like doing that kind of stuff. And when I was on stage and getting to do that and being around the acts, I was like, this is why I do it. Because you just, that energy you get from the people and from the crowd and just getting to like meet the people like that. It's just really cool.
You feel fucking great.
You do. Yeah. It's a rush. Yeah. Like when you do that and you come back, like you can come back from backstage and you're like, who needs drugs? Like this is a nice high you're getting from right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's been really cool. It has. And I've been really fortunate from, me talking about reading all the bad stuff. There's so many pluses that have come along with it. Experiences from doing the show from the Kentucky Derby at Millionaires Row. We got to do it live twice there. We've been to Las Vegas, going to do some fun openings there. It took us out there. Got to do a season opener in New York City for the NFL. It was the Cowboys and the Giants. And so, we've gotten to do some really cool things. So
see, I love that because, you're literally telling us the good aspects of going after your passion. You're doing what you love to do. You have multiple broadcast radio shows that you're doing. You have your podcast, which is on the same lines. Podcast is broadcasting, just different medium, I guess. And then you have all these wonderful things that you get to do as all of the positives. The positive that I like here is coming back to the point you said about, that's why I want to be an MTV DJ was because you don't have to deal with that stuff. Yeah. I'm learning so much about so many different fields of people having guests on here, which allows me to like open up my mind to like, okay, like I think that job is this, this, and this, but it's actually so much more. Yeah. Because we only assume what we know about a job from what we visibly see or what we read about it. But then you meet someone that's in it and you find out like I stupidly didn't think, okay, you've got to do a bunch of research. Yeah. So it's not just the hours you're sitting in the booth with your co-hosts. It's literally the time you have to spend researching and finding the material to actually get it going for I call them guests. That's just the way I am, but your audience, whoever it is. I didn't realize like how many hours you would have to put into doing research and stuff on top of it. Yeah. I mean, and it's kind of a good thing, right? That you think like that, because I think if you're tuned in and your show sounds really conversational and not like you're reading from a script or like, okay, we're hitting this and then we have to talk about this next and then we have to talk about this, if it free flows and is a bit organic, then I think that means you're doing your job well. But there's other times where people really don't have anything in front of them or have not done their research and it is free flowing and organic, but there's not much meat to it, right? Like they don't have really good content. That probably means that they're not doing much work behind the scenes. So, I mean, you want to be able to talk about your life so people get to know you, and especially you doing something like this. I mean, people are watching, people are listening. You want to get to the point where they look at you as being company. Like you are that person sitting next to them and you're having a conversation with them. And that's what you want to be their friend. Like there's so many times we've seen messages, and nowadays you have text line and we have this talkback feature where people can leave us like little voicemail clips and we play them on air, and we take phone calls. I mean, we don't even filter our calls on Real Radio. Like we'll just be like, hey, you're on air. And then, if they say something ridiculous, we got a delay and a dump button and stuff like that. But I mean, it's just free form. Anybody can call and say whatever you want. But we've had so many
good people like just say like, hey, like I had a bad day, or I was sick in the hospital and I was tuning you guys in on the iHeart radio app or this and that, and you guys really, you know, got me through some really tough times. And that is what makes this, like, I get so much satisfaction from the job. And when I hear that, like, that makes me go, man, this is totally worth it.
That's why you do it.
Yeah, that is exactly why you do it. And don't get me wrong. Man, what was it? Maybe a couple months ago, I had this guy who was on my ass, leaving like it was his job, these talkbacks. Yeah. He would leave maybe, our show is 4 hour, the one I do in the afternoons, it's a 4 hour show. And in the matter of like 4 hours, he'd probably leave like 40, 30-second talkbacks. Hated me, hated everything about me, hated everything I was about, hated the fact that I was Puerto Rican, just everything, hated everything. Damn. Oh, everything. And he was nasty. And at first I was like, it's a troll. Everybody's a warrior behind their phone, behind their computer, whatever. So at first I was just like, you know, it is what it is. And then it was just then, and that's why a lot of people say, don't read your comments. Don't read your comments. Don't. And to me, I know I have pretty thick skin, and you have to be in this industry. Not everybody's going to like you, right? Oh, no. Like, even if you give them zero reason or for what you think not to like you, they'll find something, right? So this guy found everything not to like about me. And then it got to the point where it was just like threatening, like, you know, if he saw me, he was gonna, his words, fucking spit in my face. Damn. Oh, it got bad. So then it was like, all right, well, I'm kind of, now I'm concerned, right? Mm-hmm. You can find where I work very easily. So, yeah. So now I'm like, am I going to run into this guy? Am I going to have to deal? It got really bad. And so we had to, like, at one point, file a police report, and you can't do anything. So that's the thing. I wasn't able to. Right. Because we have an open forum. Okay. And with that open forum, that allows them to. You can say whatever you want. And I didn't know this. So, you know, I brought it up on the radio, and I brought it up. I didn't say who the guy was. I never called out anybody because I could find out his name. Mm-hmm. And I brought it not as deep as I'm going into you with this, but I did say, I was like, oh, I have a hater out there and blah, blah, blah. And I saw if there was anything I could do about it legally. And I was like, and I can't. And, you know, but I think that was enough for him to kind of shut it down a little bit, because we have not really heard about it since. But just to know that, like, we kind of looked into the legalities of it and see what we can do. But yeah, it happens. You're going to have people who absolutely love you and tell you that and make you feel great about what you do. Yeah. And then you're going to have people who can make you feel like shit. But you got to outweigh the good over the bad.
Haters are haters.
Haters are going to hate. And you can't take one guy and make it ruin the rest of your day.
I mean, I try right now because I'm new here on the podcast platforms. And, you know, I try to respond to, like, all of the comments that come in and like them. And like, because I want to interact with the guests out there, the audience. And there's been a couple that have been things that others may get bothered by, and I read it, and it's trash. You know, I don't know how to take it and put it in the trash. Yeah. I just take it.
You put it in your mental trash.
And your mental trash. I read it, I'm like, you're awesome.
Mental trash can.
All right, see you later. Next. You know, in the real world, not everyone's going to like you. Mm-hmm. You know, there's many people in my life that I've probably pissed off, and they don't ever want to see or talk to me again. Yeah. And okay, I apologize to all of you out there that I may have done that to for the person I was back then. But now look at me.
I'm a changed person. Better. You're killing it in life.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, we learn as we mature to not get bothered by what other people think, say, or do about you. It's important not to. In my life, I try my best when information comes to me that might be of negativity of other people, you know, voice, words, whatever. And I just try to believe that that has something to do with them and their past and not anything actually to do with me. Because I don't think I've done anything purposefully to harm them, to allow that to come at me. So I don't take it to heart, and it doesn't change how I'm going to be to them.
And even if somebody, like, let's say, you know, I was coming in here and there was a lot of negative things that were said about you. You know, somebody had said that, and they're like, why are you going on there? Why are you going to do the podcast? I will form my own opinion.
And I love that.
Yeah, I will. There have been a lot of people in my life that they're just like, how are you friends with them? And I was like, you know what? They've never done me wrong. And they've always been good to me. So I compare people to restaurants and movies. Like, I will go and check out a place if I've been dying to go, even though somebody had a bad experience. I was like, maybe it was maybe somebody was having a bad day there, whatever the situation may be. If there's somebody or a place I've been dying to go to and somebody gives it a bad review, I'm like, no, I'm going to check it out for myself. And if it sucks, then you told me to. You already told me that. But if it doesn't, then I found my new favorite place.
opinions are like assholes.
They
Everyone has
sure
one.
are.
You know, everyone has one.
Yep.
And that's what I express about like learning how to do what I'm doing. Like you took years to get to the point of where you're at now. It's a lot of research, a lot of work, a lot of daily grind to get you to where you are. And a lot of people, I'm sure, on your path to get there, we're trying to be helpful and give you information. Oh, you definitely have to do it this way. You should do it this way. And it's learning how to take the little tidbits from each person to develop your own knowledge about something and then move forward with how you and your gut, you know, wants you to.
Yep. You absolutely, I know it sounds so silly and cliche, but you got to do you. You do, because everybody has already created and formed their own paths. I'm very fortunate that I've had people in my life and who have been mentors and have been in the industry for a really long time. I mean, these people are like gods in the talk radio community. Dr. Rich and Dr. Glenn, they were the Love Doctors. They were on air for years, almost 30 years, and they both have retired in the past 2 years. But they are what made real radio. They're what made them a hot talk station. So getting to be around them and seeing what they do and listening to the kind of radio they do, it worked for them. They were incredible. I learned some things, but how they did it is not how I'm doing it, because I'm doing what works for me. There's another guy, I'm sure you've probably seen him out and about, Josh Cohen. He worked for me in the radio industry. Maybe if I showed you, you probably would know who he is.
There's a guy that's been out in the mix of where we've been.
And he used to live in the Edge when I lived there too. So you may have ran into him there.
He may have been on a boat I worked on too then, because there's a couple of talk radio people that had been on a vessel that I worked at that was docked at the bottom of Clematis Street at Palm Harbor Marina for years. And I've cooked dinner for some of these people. They wouldn't know that it was me necessarily, but they would know who I was working for. So I may know exactly who you're talking about.
I would guess probably.
Did he used to go to the rooftop?
He would go to the rooftop, and he's always around. Like if you see his face, you're like,
pretty confident.
I definitely know who that guy is. But he worked for Real Radio for a very long time. Now he works for ESPN, the local radio network here, and had a fantastic show. And he let me sit on his show one time, and I got to watch him, and he's very good at what he does. And he would give me some pointers, and I appreciated it, and I would take them. But when I listen, me and him do two completely different styles of radio, because it works for him. And I appreciate the knowledge that he gave me. And like I said, you take little pieces of what everybody, because you look at success and you look at successful people and you're like, well, shit, if they've been doing it this long, then obviously they have some kind of recipe for success. So I'm just going to take little pieces of all their little recipes for success, and I'm going to create my own little dish.
100%.
And so that's what I've done.
I mean, you're bringing it together for our listeners right now. Another topic. This is why I love doing the podcast, and I love the guests that I've had and the guests that other guests have said, oh, you should have this person on, because everyone is really aligned with each other, and you're touching on a topic that we do on the show. And I believe it very much because it's something I took from books I read and from things I've watched, which is surround yourself with those who are already living the life that you want. Yep. And that is an excellent example of how you've become good at what you've done. You surrounded yourself with those people that you looked up to in your industry that were doing it longer than you, and you sat and you listened and you joined in and took what you could from them that was good, and clearly what you thought was not good, you left over there and created Franny.
And and maybe it's good for them, but it wasn't good for me.
Right.
I'm not gonna copycat what people do. I will take it. I mean, what are they? A lot of people, you see it in the music industry, but we're just recently, who was it? Why is his name eluding me? The British kid, super popular, red hair.
Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran. I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Why is she testing me right now?
I was like, why can I not think of Ed Sheeran? I just watched him on TV. I was like, why is this? But he was going through that whole Marvin Gaye, family was suing him because they were like, this song sounds like one of his songs.
Oh, geez.
And he was just like, if I am liable for this, I'm going to quit music. He was like, I am. And you could hear the differences between the songs, but yes, was there similarity? Yes. And it happens when it comes to people's personality, the styles of radio that they do, the music. There is parallel thinking in everything.
Absolutely.
And there's only a few chords,
That's
mainstream
how many
music.
chords are in music that you interchange?
Luckily, he was found not liable. And perfect. But I mean, it just happens all the time. And it's in every kind of industry. I mean, I'm sure you can have somebody who was just a chef, and he was like, that's my dish. I can't believe you stole my exact dish. Or you see it with comedy, like the comics say, you stole my joke.
Right. But maybe they did it better.
Exactly.
You can't be upset with that.
You really can't.
You can't be upset with that.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. And that's another thing, because you mentioned Robin Williams. We've been really fortunate to have a lot of comedians come through our show. Because if they're playing at the Palm Beach Improv, we're there to promote them. And so we'll have them sit in with us a few segments. And, we had the late Bob Saget on the show, who was super.
Get outta here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And we had him a couple times, and he was always such a pleasure, always. From like Brian Callen, Bert Kreischer, you know, we've had pretty big names.
If you ever get Matt Rife, you got to hit me up.
Okay, all right,
because he's coming to Miami, which I think is like not till like December or something like that. But he's been around for a while. He was on. No, I'm going to forget. Nick Cannon's show.
Okay, what, the Wild and Out?
Yeah, he was on that, and I didn't know that until I came across a reel.
Yeah.
I've been watching this guy on Reels or on TikTok or some, whatever, when you flip up.
Yeah.
And he's fucking talented.
Is he?
Oh, my, he's
I gotta check him out.
blowing up.
Okay.
Matt Rife, I believe. He has that natural ability that when he's on stage, his jokes are funny, but he interacts with the crowd so much, and you don't know what the crowd's going to say. He has the wit. He just gets at it, and he kills me every day. Absolutely.
I got to check him out. Yeah. So, you know, we've been like really fortunate about that. Most of the time they're super cool. Sometimes takes a lot, like pulling teeth, and you're like, man, you thought they would come out here and just be so charismatic and so funny. The second time we interviewed him, great. The first time we interviewed him, I was like, what a douche. And that was, it was Jeremy Piven.
Okay, get out of here, really?
Yeah, so Jeremy Piven was on, and we had him, and he started doing stand-up. He's been doing stand-up for a couple of years now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he just recently was, maybe 3 months ago, was on with us again promoting his stand-up. He was at the Improv, I think, one night only on Thursday night.
Okay.
But we had him on before the pandemic, and I just remember, like, he was just like everything we said, he would kind of come back at us, like, really condescending. He wasn't funny. He was just kind of like a jackass. And I was like, when he left, I was like, this guy did himself zero favors to sell. That's what you're there for. You're there to sell a show. You're there to be funny. And no, we're not like dance monkey, you know? But just be yourself.
You're promoting yourself.
Yeah, you're promoting yourself. Be funny. Don't be a jerk. And that's what it was. Like, it was almost kind of uncomfortable. It was like a really tough interview to get through. And I don't know if it was because it wasn't the first time. When we were telling people that he was coming on air with us. I know our morning show, they're syndicated in Cleveland. It's Rover's Morning Glory. Somebody told me that he was on their show, and it was really uncomfortable. And the host Rover called him out. So we were like, all right. So when he came back, I was just like, why are we taking this interview again?
Oh, geez.
And I don't know if somebody talked to him was like, or his sales sucks the last time around.
PR person or something.
Yeah. He was a completely different person. He was so cool. He was charismatic. He cracked some jokes, and I was like, wow. So from me going like that, and like I said, maybe it was a bad day. You never know, like the first time around, but he just completely changed. And you know, and then even kind of circling back, like you never know when you're having a bad day. We had Kevin Nealon on, and from SNL. Do you remember him? He was like, I want to pump you.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Him with Dana Carvey.
Yeah.
So he was a bigger guy.
Oh
He
my
would do
God, that black hair. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that's Kevin Nealon, and he's been on a couple movies, but he was on SNL.
Oh, he did. And he also did the news aspects on SNL.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah. So he came on, and I was so excited, right? And I thought, I was like, I want to pump you up, but and I was so excited for him to come on, and then he was just so down and like, and just monotone and like whatever, and he wasn't mean.
Right.
It was just another thing. Like, you're here to promote yourself. You're not doing yourself any favors. Well, to find out, it was like somebody very close in his family just died. And then he found out on phone and then got onto our show. Wow. So it was like you know, and you know, I was creating all these stories about him. And then I felt, oh my God, I felt so unfair to do that, knowing what he was coming through when he was coming into the show. And it was something so major and like devastating that, I mean, to be honest with you, maybe he shouldn't have done the interview at the time because it was like that big, but you just never know what people are going through. You just don't.
A friend of mine once told me it takes zero effort to be nice to people, you know, because you just don't know what someone else is going through in a day, in a minute, a year, whatever.
Yep.
So
what do they say? I think it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile.
100%.
Right?
Isn't that strange?
Yeah, it is.
Our bodies are built in that way.
I think it'd be about the same. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a chip on my shoulder until I was close to 30 years old. I thought the world was out to get me. I was very negative towards everything. I had a couple of friends kind of snap me out of it, really put me in my place, almost like a dog getting smacked on the nose for doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And I didn't get mad at them when it happened. I actually just stopped and absorbed it, and then kind of like went home, thought about it, and then slowly started putting practices into my life that helped me change that. That's Sushi. I'm not sure if she's coming up on the mic right now, but the puppy's doing a little whining because she's only been in the room for like an hour, not even. You know, she's
the
not
dogs
that hard of a life.
They ever make cameos on the podcast?
They've been on some of the YouTubes, and Sushi has. If you look at any of the old YouTube that I used to do with like the food and the travel, she was in part of the intro, both as a puppy and then as an older year and a bit later kind of dog, to see her like growing.
She's full of dogs.
So,
I'll tell you what. If you look on my Instagram right now and you look, it's dogs and fitness models.
There you go.
That's all I follow.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't follow that many people anymore because of the whole, like, you know, you're on Instagram and you're trying to do something, so you have to have more followers than you're following and all this weird stuff. And I mean, I like people and I like to follow different stuff, but you know, you gotta play the game sometimes.
You do.
So we've talked a lot about a lot of good aspects of doing what you do, which sounds like a dream.
Yeah, no, I'm very fortunate.
Like unbelievable, like interacting with all these like. And I don't want to point at like the celebrities because we tend to put people on pedestals, but the people within your own field that you've been lucky enough to work around that sound like great human beings that have helped you and guided you and what have you. What I mean, you've known your passion for a long time.
Yes.
You didn't take a while to find that out.
No. And I will tell you, it is a passion because anybody getting into the radio industry thinking that they're going to come in and make a ton of money, you have to get your mind out of that because that's not where it's at. It's not. Unless you are syndicated, right? Unless they are playing your radio show everywhere around the country, multiple stations, unless you are like the #1 top morning show, right? Like a Ryan Seacrest or Elvis Duran or whatever it is. Unless you're those people.
Elvis Duran.
I know. I don't even know if he's still doing, but he was an iHeart guy. Even our morning show, Rover, he's Rover's Morning Glory. They've been doing it for years. He's syndicated a few places. I mean, they do pretty damn well. It is very far and few in between.
Right.
So don't think you're going to come in and you're going to make these mega bucks. I am doing radio. I am very happy with what I'm doing. I love what I do every day when the mic track on. I get super excited. I still get butterflies in my stomach, and I've been doing it, for 13, 14 years. But I do it because I love it.
Right.
If it was money, I wouldn't be bartending. I have a real estate license. I'm a nutrition coach. Like I dabble on these little things, my girlfriend. Yeah, I have side hustles because sometimes, they're like, oh, if you do what you love and this and that, then and it's great to do what you love. But they say you never feel like you work a day in your life. Sometimes it still feels like work, and doing what you love is awesome. But you also, in reality, still have to pay your bills, or if you have a certain kind of life you're used to living, you sometimes have to take on other things in order to have that life.
It's almost as if you have a great passion in your life, and if it is a creative, which typically, I can't think of anyone that's been on the show that's not a creative, regardless of the field they've been in, because what you do is very creative. Talking with other people daily is it's creative. You got to keep it going.
Yeah.
It doesn't ever seem to be the big paycheck, which is funny because those who are doing it anyways, which is what I'm trying to share is the definition of success is different, or it should be different than what we thought it was, or what we were programmed to think. Most chefs will tell you, again, unless you're the number ones, the way up there and you think about it, like you're not getting into cooking, you're not getting into broadcasting to become a millionaire. That's not why you're going to do it. You're getting into it because you love it. You want to do it regularly because at the end of the day, you come home and you feel good about yourself because of what you did added to someone else's life. Cooking food, I change people's emotions through food. Someone sits down and has a meal, they feel good afterwards.
Eating is one of my favorite things to do in the world.
I do it at least 3 times a day.
Me too, probably more. And while I'm eating, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be eating next. And while I'm eating, I'm like dancing because I'm so happy about what I'm eating.
That's hilarious.
It's so true. There's certain things in life that make me very happy, and it's food. It's the people that surround me. It is a good drink, music, and sleep.
There you go. And not necessarily in that order.
No. Some days I could like more than the other. One of those things more than the other. But
absolutely.
Yeah, I still think food's probably my favorite thing. Yeah.
Side hustles are important. I mean, that as I'm starting this right now because the job I'm doing, like obviously it pays well, but I want to create more ease in my life. So I'm doing something that I'm now even more passionate about than cooking. For me, doing the job that I've been doing for 15 years, working on yachts, it pays the bills, and I'm really happy about that. And I love when I have a job. The most fun I ever have is when I come outside after a meal, after a dinner or something like that, to see the guests, And not only are they very generous with their applause and whatnot like that, but it's the comments after where they literally want to like get my information and like, okay, would you share this recipe with me? And like when they do that, I'm just like, fuck yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Here's my card. Like message me anytime. I will give you that.
Yeah, that's got to be so rewarding.
That's the passion coming out, you know? Like, yeah, the paycheck's great. That's the byproduct of doing what you love to do well.
Yep. And I can only imagine. I mean, it's just even at small scale, right? Like even having a dinner party at your house and everybody raving about it. I don't know. They could be bullshitting me, but they're doing it.
Right?
They're doing it really well. Where I just feel good about what I did.
We have pizza parties here at the compound from time to time, and I love teaching. I love educating. I should say, because teaching's different than educating. I love sharing the talents I have with other people. That's why I love doing podcasts, because I'm sharing time with somebody. You know, doing this, you made a comment about, you know, people, your audience want to look at you as a friend or as like someone they would hang out with or be with, because I'm trying to have people invite me into their home, their car, wherever they are for a period of time to help their day be better. So having that ability and sharing that with other people, if someone's day was better because of something I may have said or something that one of my guests may have shared,
you're winning in that aspect.
I'm already successful.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else to tell me what success is. I'm already successful because someone out there is better off because they heard what we said.
And you hear, you know, so many people are like, God, everybody's podcasting these days. And you know what? A lot of people are, but they're not doing it well. And even if a lot of people are, not everybody's connecting with that certain somebody. So all you have to do is find somebody and find that connection that you have with that person. And then they will be your ride along. They'll ride shotgun with you all the time after that. You know, you just have to get out there to the right people and just make the connection. That's what I do. And I even know now, like when I do road trips, I used to listen to music a lot of the time or whatever it was. And now I'll put on a podcast and that's what I'll listen to. And if I'm by myself, I have them next to me. If I don't have my husband or a friend or whatever it is.
The world has shifted.
Yeah.
You can't have life without music. That'll always be there.
Course.
It is one of the most amazing
Live
things in the world.
Live music is incredible to me. I love it.
But people are definitely, like my buddy TJ Vela, when he's at work all day, you know, working on cars and whatnot, he's not really listening to music that much. He says he's basically listening to a whole bunch of podcasts. That's 8 hours of listening to different people's podcasts. So like when people don't understand what it is we're doing, they're missing out on something huge. This is a great side hustle. This is something that you can do with your time. That's fun. Yep. It's rewarding.
It's an outlet to kind of let things out.
It's therapy, 100%. And there's 8 billion people in the world, I think. I'm pretty confident that if you do it regularly and do it often and be honest and truthful to yourself and your audience, eventually that audience is going to develop and grow into a wonderfully loving community that not just wants you, but depends on you. They go to you when they want to feel better, if that's the style of podcast you're doing. If you're doing sports and you're really good at it, they're going to you because they want the sports knowledge of what you have. So you do 2 shows, not just one. 2 shows, 4 hours each.
Yeah, but I will say the morning show, and that's on the Gator 98.7, that is music. It's music-based. My host and I, it's Jason and Franny in the mornings. We do our little segments that we have where we get a few minutes of talking, but a lot of it is, you know, talking, introing, and trying to put in small bits of information, maybe some funny bits, this and that, in between the music, right?
Okay.
People are tuning in to the Gator, classic rock. They're tuning into that more so, yes, if they like our personalities, they'll tune in to hear that, but they want to listen to music. The other station I'm on, they're there to listen to us talk. They're there for our personalities. They're there to hear what we have to say because we don't play any music. And so you're going to see a lot of the stations that are promoted like under our little umbrella of iHeart. You have 195.5, you have Cool, you have the Gator, you have JNO, you have Real Radio, you have Mia, you have all these things. Majority of them are music radio. The music radio ones are the ones that typically do better in ratings. And the rating system is really silly. So there's only a handful of people that get a meter.
Okay.
And they get to wear a meter for however long it is. And by like a handful, out of all the people we have in our listening area, Palm Beach County, Treasure Coast, I think there's like 20 something. I don't know. I could be blind. Maybe it's more, but it's really not that many.
Okay.
It's a small percentage of the population. They give them a meter, and that meter picks up the signal of whatever they're listening to. So a lot of time they're listening to music, or let's say you're going into a doctor's office or you're going into a place of business. They have the music playing in the background.
It picks up whatever.
It picks that up. And so
that's so cool.
Yeah. So whatever they're picking up is what, and they market. And so then whatever stations getting listened to most of the time, right? They're the ones who are going to get the meters. They're the ones who are going to get, and then they are put on their number one station, number two, number three in our market.
I love it.
So that's how it's done. A lot of people aren't listening to talk radio unless you're working at, like, we know a lot of mechanics do. We have a lot of people who are on the road all the time who are listening to the talk radio station I'm on. We have, because you're not going to put it on a doctor's office in a waiting room because people are going to be like, what the hell's happening? They're used to having that background music. So that's what we get. And, we do advertise every now and then. I remember like 3 or 4 years into it, they put me and 2 other girls who were on the station. They no longer are, but put us on a billboard. And we had 4 billboards on, Palm Beach County and on 95. And I was like, oh my God, I'm on a billboard. Yeah.
Did the ratings?
They did for a little bit because it was like the 2 girls were really pretty, and then me, and there was like talk that same, like, talk never looks so good. And it was, and it was 3 girls and just cleavage, and we're on the billboard like this. And I stopped by every damn billboard and took a picture in front of it. I was like, Mom, I'm on a billboard. It was like super cool. And our ratings did go up. But that was like one of the smaller things we have. When you're one of the top rated stations, they pump you so much. You're on the side of a bus, you're on this and that. So when it came to the talk radio station, every time we ask people when they call in, especially if they're calling in because we do giveaways and stuff like that, concerts and parks and stuff like that. We're like, how'd you hear about us? And somebody who's, the most answer, the biggest answer we get, most common, shall I say, is, I was put on Scan. I've had Scan, and I heard, whatever, some good conversation, and I left it there, and then I've been hooked on since. We've had people tell us that they rented a car, and it was on 92.1, and in the car they just like gave it a listen, or their friend told them about us.
Okay.
So we are that kind of, we have not been marketed huge. They haven't really branded us, but we are known in the community just because of that, of word of mouth, or just happening to fall upon us, stuff like that.
And how long have you been doing that
This
show?
is the one I've been doing the longest. So that one I've been doing, like, maybe it's 13 years now.
That's crazy. So like, without even a great deal of marketing, that show has been going on for that long of a time.
Yep. And that radio station has been on, Real Radio has been something for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been around for a long time. The only other real radio in the country is in Orlando, and they do very well. But yeah, that's it. And it tells you that there's something out there. We're talk radio. So that means people do want it. They do want to hear people talk, like with podcasts.
I mean, that's the way the world is right now.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that that you're saying that there's still more music driven radio compared. When you think about like all the avenues that people can get music now, Spotify, Pandora. I mean, I'm sure there's many more. I'm just
so many. There's Spreaker and Apple and Amazon, and
yet music radio is still very popular compared to talk radio, which the whole world right now is on their laptops or on their phones or even on their TVs watching podcasts and listening or watching people talk.
Yep.
Not even
guilty. I stream music all the time, all the time. Only time I'm tuning in is if I'm listening to one of my favorite like shows, morning shows or something like that. Yeah.
What's one of the most difficult things that you've had to deal with?
Well, I mean, I just think in general the radio industry, and a lot of people don't realize it. It's a boys' club. Okay. It is. It always has been. Most of the time, if you listen to your favorite show, and most of the time the morning shows are the ones that do the best. So that's how so there's AM, you have morning drive, middays, you have afternoon drive, then you have your evenings, and you have your late nights. And so that 6 to 10 is morning drive, and then the afternoons are typically, like the time. So we're on like 10 to 2. There's like 2 to 5, 5 to 7. They do pretty well because you have people driving home. So they're in their cars, and then you have morning people driving to work. Right. So they do like really well. But if you know those more popular shows that are on that, morning drive is going to be probably where your highest rated shows are going to be. I don't know the last time I've heard, and if you have, let me know, where when there's a group of people, 3 or 4 doing a show, if there was a female host on there. It's typically more guys.
Male prominent.
More guys, and then, a couple women, they may sprinkle in some women. A lot of time these days they sprinkle in a good-looking girl because now radio isn't just audio, it's visual. They're pushing social media. It's a big incentive for us is Instagram. Being on Twitter and TikTok and Snapchat, like all of our radio stations have all these accounts we've had to create. And so it's more that now a lot of the shows we have a YouTube channel for Real Radio, so you can watch us do the show live.
That's cool.
Yeah, so a lot of them do. So it's become more visual, actually, than it is audio, which is quite interesting. But that's the thing. It's kind of tough to get that. I don't want to say tough, but it definitely is a male-dominated world.
How do you deal with that?
And I just do. I just roll with the punches. I just do. Sometimes I get my days to shine. Sometimes if our host is out, I'll take the captain's chair, and I absolutely love it. Yeah. I love being the host. Like it's a different ball game for me. It's a different show. Maybe some people might not like it as much if he's not there. Maybe some people do. I mean, I do get good feedback as well too. But I think that would be like really cool. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it would be so cool to be able to
we're putting it out there right now.
Yes, putting it out in the universe. Yeah, like host your own show. But it always has been. And I mean, it's not even to say what was me, but even guys get paid better in the industry too.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you are hosting your own show because you have your podcast.
True.
Right?
You're right.
So you are hosting your own show there.
Yes.
I hope you do get your own show in the aspect that you're talking about. You're a lovely human being.
Well, thank you.
You have a wicked good voice. You obviously are very knowledgeable with what you're doing, so it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't.
Pretend like I am. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah,
right?
we all talk about that on here. Absolutely.
That's how I live life.
I've literally done. I had this conversation with one of the girls I used to work with my YouTube. Her name is Brooks Daigle. Shout out. It doesn't matter how long I will cook for. I will always think that I'm faking it till I make it.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
And I've had a very successul career, but I still never I don't look at myself as a chef. I look at myself as someone who cooks food for people. Yeah. And maybe it has something to do with something that happened in my past as a young person, maybe not getting approval or what have you. I have a hard time thinking that I work for billionaires,
which is crazy because you do.
That's literally what I've done.
That
for
is,
15
I
years.
mean, I know, and that's your career. That is what you do, but you still don't have that mentality.
I mean,
but maybe I don't know. It's weird. Maybe that's what makes you so successful in it. Maybe it's the humbleness that comes along with it. And not the cockiness that some people have when they're like, I cook for billionaires. I'm the chef.
No, I pinch myself. I worked for a family for 9 years, and regardless, I thank whomever, whatever, everyone that allowed me to do that job, because that particular person was, that couple was probably some of the nicest people I've ever worked for in my life. They didn't act like those who have that kind of money. They were very genuine individuals. And I would pinch myself regularly at the things I got to do because I was cooking them food. Yeah. I cooked them food, and I've been, obviously I was on their yacht, that's not
it's got to be pretty nice.
You know what I'm saying? It was.
Oh, I used to live next to Rybovich. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
those are nice.
There's some nice boats.
Yeah.
I got to fly on their private jet with them. That's an experience that not many people get to do in their life. I got to do things at sporting events and on the field and in owners' boxes and stuff like that. That I'll have that memory forever, but I still don't understand why.
Because you're good.
But I just cooked. I just cooked them dinner.
Yeah, but you cook them good dinner.
I mean, it's hard for me to take that. I say thank you for saying that. It's the fake it till you make it mentality. I think comes from people that are doing what they love to do because they love to do it. They're not doing it for the money. The money's nice. The money's the byproduct. It helps you pay your bills, like you say. But it's being done differently. So it's just, I love what I do. I'll never not cook. But I've expressed this before. This, I love way more. Yeah. I love interacting with people. I love interacting with people that actually have something to say. Not this go to the bar and oh, how was your week? How was work going? Is same as last week. You know what I mean? Same as last Friday when I saw you.
I love that question. No. I just saw you yesterday.
I was gonna say, and I saw you Wednesday.
Life's the same. What's new? Well, not much happened since I saw you about 8 hours ago.
I ate some food. I took a shit. I showered this morning.
That's about it. Yep. Rinse and repeat, dude.
What are some of the most interesting conversations you guys have had on the show?
So, I mean, we've had some very interesting conversations, especially, like I said, we stay away from politics. But when it's election time, it's one of those things that you just can't stop people from calling in about. And so when we take them, sometimes when the conversations get a bit too heated or whatever, we will end the conversations. But it wasn't me personally. I kind of interjected there was a conversation that was brought up about a certain candidate who did become our president, and our host at the time was not a fan, and so we knew like we had to get away from this. We knew because when you're in this industry, you kind of have to stay in the middle, unless that's the kind of show you do, right?
Yeah.
Unless that is the show, that's the station that you're on, you got to stay right in the middle, and you can't share who you voted for. Right. And I remember that, like even during COVID and who we voted, and like the host at the time who was no longer with us, and I adore this guy, but he had very strong opinions of us with stuff. And I'll finish so the story when it was coming to when we had the presidential race going on, and I had to go in and play like peacemaker, because if not, we were going to lose a lot of people. We did. Really? Just because you could tell what side he was on. Okay. That we ended up finding out that we lost a bunch of listeners because of that. And that's when I learned, like, just you can play, it's a little dance you have to do, right? Where you got to be delicate on both sides and don't let people know, even though you do feel strongly about it, because we are in the industry of ratings, we are in the industry of listeners. Our advertisers pay our bills, and if they want to advertise on stations that are doing well. Right. They don't want to advertise on stations that aren't bringing in money. We make money from doing endorsements. That's an extra avenue of making money in the radio industry. Besides your salary, if you endorse a local business, a bar, car dealership, that's extra money in your paycheck. You're doing live endorsements for them. So that's not going to come in if they're noticing that you're not having any listeners. And so when COVID happened and it was the whole vaccine talk and this and that was a hot topic, couldn't stay away from it. Yeah. And people very much felt a certain way. And I had my feelings about it, but I didn't want to express them because I didn't want to piss off people who didn't have my feelings. And constantly I was getting pushed by the host, by my co-host, by listeners. Did you get the vaccine? Did you get the vaccine? And every time I was like, why does it matter?
None of your fucking business.
Exactly. It's none of your business. And so finally there was a time where I like pull them aside off air and I was like, can you guys fucking quit asking me? I was like, first of all, it's none of your business. I was like, and it's none of their business, right, whether I did or not. Yeah. And they kind of like took it like, okay, but there was a time where I was like stigmatized for it because of that. And so that's why I try to steer far away from anything polarizing like that when it comes to it. Give me the fluff all day long. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind talking about serious stuff. I know you have to in the world. But yeah, because like I said, I mean, you can lose the people who actually help pay your bills.
It's unfortunate because especially in the world today, it's kind of like very sensitive. Yeah. We got to tiptoe around a lot of topics.
We're so woke.
Yeah. Well, we talk about that on here, and I think people misuse that.
They do, and that's why I said it like sarcastically. Yeah,
because those who think they are woke are far from it.
Yes, and they use the word way too much.
Yeah, it takes a lot of inner looking.
Yeah, I mean that term's been around since the 70s, and people think it's like a new term that's been around.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on now, in my opinion, is the next step from what happened in the 50s and 60s. This is now another movement of the hippie era, in my opinion, where it's about, more freedom and more talking and more expressing and more sharing, which has always been needed, but has been pushed down because it's going to take away from those other people's money.
And now we have more outlets to do it too.
And now we can do it a lot louder. Yeah. So it's a bit different. Yep. The woke topic is something I talk about a little bit on the podcast, but more off the podcast because the information I have is a bit different than what people think they have.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you brought that up. So what would you say for anybody that is thinking about getting into the industry?
Yeah.
Something that I'd like to give as resources to the listeners as to, if there's something that they might want to do that one of our guests does. It sounds like, and I think you've just had a really wonderful career. There's so much good.
Yeah.
There's so much
there
good.
Is. There right? is. I wouldn't do it if there wasn't.
The benefits are there if you work hard.
The good absolutely outweighs any of the negative stuff that comes with the industry.
What would be like some navigating suggestions?
I mean, I will say, like I joked about the whole Connecticut School of Broadcasting because I've heard people who went there, nothing happened from it. It's like, to me, people look at it like going to bartending school, right?
Okay, yeah.
I tell people not to. I joke about the fake it till you make it. My first bartending job, Totally faked it. I knew cocktails. I was in the restaurant industry. I watched the bartenders, but I picked up a bartending book. I picked up a cocktail book and I just flipped through it. And I just and if I didn't know what like a sex with an alligator was, I just was like, all right. And at the time, iPhones, I couldn't Google stuff on my phone. No, so I just like did it, or I'd ask the bartender. But I had the knowledge enough. I didn't go in there completely blinded to it. Like I had the knowledge enough to do it and do okay at it, to where then I was learning, and then I ended up doing it for a very long time. And so that was a thing here, and that was a schooling. So I joke around it, but it did help place me in an internship that got at least the wheels turning in the industry. It wasn't the direction I wanted to be in, but I'm grateful for the path that it took me down. As I mentioned, I wanted to do news, television. I joke around about the MTV VJ because they're no longer around, but I mean, that's what I wanted to do, entertainment news. And that didn't happen for me, but I'm super grateful, and I wouldn't change a thing that happened. So you can go that route. A lot of people do go to college for communication and broadcasting and stuff like that. It just is... It's not an easy industry to get into. You have to have passion for it. You have to have time for it. Sometimes you have luck on your side. You meet the right person. As I did, I went from interning to doing sales. I was selling advertising for the radio station, to meeting the guy on one of the shows who took a liking to me, let me sit in on his show, and so sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes a bit of luck. If this is something you really want to do, you can see if there's any position in the radio station. We have a lot of people who start as doing promotions. You help us set up our events, and you get perks. You get to do the concerts. You get to do the Sunfest. You get to do all this stuff. And then, maybe you can kind of you just make yourself known. And then if there happens to be an opening, you can be like, hey, I'm interested, or hey, I went to school for that, or this is a passion I have for. But you think about how many people are in the radio industry. There's a lot of us, but there's not.
Right.
So it takes either, somebody stepping out or retiring, or some changes being made in a radio station, because we get it all the time. Like, my son wants to be in radio. Can you get him in? And we're like, we would love to, but we don't have any opportunity. There's no spots. We don't have any opportunities for him. Yeah. So it's not easy. It's not. I'm not going to say just do it and your dreams will automatically come true. A lot of it is luck, and it's that the opportunity is available for you. But as I mentioned, don't give up on it. If it's something you want to do, just kind of get your foot in the door if you can, but know that it's not going to be an easy in. So maybe have something else on the side, like I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the listeners can take a point from what you actually did was, this is a message we talk about, which is do more for what you get paid in order to get paid for more than what you do. You took a position in the advertising section of radio. You put in the work that was needed to be around those people that you wanted to eventually be. Yep. And you got there. Yep. Because you weren't not going to get there.
Oh, yeah. I made sure they knew who I was. Yeah. And I was still making money, and I was still in the area. Yes, I was in the business department. I was not over in programming. Actually, a lot of the time they were like, they weren't going to let us in. Now you can interact. A lot of the salespeople do. But there was a moment in the mid 2000s where they were not letting us interact.
You couldn't go near the talent.
No, don't go near the talent, right? It's a different world these days, but I found my ways around. Yeah. We would have some promotional events going on where we would sell things. And I sold a Valentine's Day package, and I was in charge of it. So I took one of the big major radio personalities and a winner, and I got a limo and we took them to a spa, but I made sure I was around that radio personality. We chit chatted, they knew who I was. So, and that's what you have to do. You have to make yourself known and seen, and kind of have to be hungry about it too. You don't want to be annoying.
Right. There's a difference. Yes. Knowing the time in which to say something.
Yep.
I've talked with some people about this before, which is taking the opportunity to be quiet at the right time is important, and knowing when to speak is even more important. Yep. It sounds like you've been hustling your whole life. It sounds like you're not going to stop. Yeah. It sounds like where you're at right now is still just a jumping off point for what's going to happen for you.
I sure hope so.
Because you're only 41.
Years young.
Exactly.
I like how you say young. Yes,
there
I
you
like
go.
that.
41 years young.
Yes.
So you have many, many more years ahead of you, hopefully, of success.
I hope so.
And sharing that story and sharing everything that you do right now. I'm so happy that I found out that you have a podcast as well, because I'm definitely going to, I'm going to go right to my laptop after this, hit subscribe, and I'm going to give a listen tonight because I'm so intrigued. The topic sounds amazing. Yeah. So I'm so happy for you that you have that.
Thank you.
And, 2 shows that are going on. you know, plus everything else that's in your life that you do on the side hustle, real estate and everything else. It's amazing. I love talking with people that are super successful and that have clearly done it like on their own. Like, you've created your whole life from working hard.
Yeah.
And I thank you for sharing that.
I thank you for letting me share that.
Oh, you're too sweet.
Yeah.
All the listeners out there, I'm hoping they've really enjoyed chatting, listening to us chat.
Well, I enjoyed it, so I'm just kidding. So I don't care if you have. No, I absolutely have. And thank you so much for having me on there. It really was a pleasure. This was good. Because you don't understand, typically, like, you know, I break up these things. Right. When you do radio, we'll do 25 minutes, take a little break. Podcast, we do our 25 minutes, take a break, come back for 25 minutes, and we have little commercials. But this was easy. Yeah, it was. I was like, holy crap, it's already been an hour.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the time. Like, we got to get you to your next spot real quick.
I got to go dance.
There you go. So we didn't get to touch on that, but maybe next time you come on, we'll find out about what that dance was about and how it went and everything like that. If anyone wants to get hold of you or watch any of your stuff, you'll give me the information.
Absolutely.
We'll put it in the description down below here for everyone so that they can watch Franny's podcast and tune into all the radio shows that she's on. And if you ever do any, I don't know if you do any collaborations with other stations or anything like that. But if you do, you can let us know, and then we can put that on our Instagram and on our stories, because we like to keep all of our guests kind of like intertwined with what we're doing here.
I love it. That'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone out there, for tuning in for another episode here on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Don't forget to scroll down and hit subscribe, hit the bell to be notified about what's coming up next. Like, comment, share. Please, I enjoy all the support that you've been doing out there on all of our platforms. And we look forward to seeing you here next week on the Lyfe Choyces podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You are now about
The Journey, Lyfe Choyces Podcast.